Welcome to Burnout and Beyond podcast. I am your host, Victor Bartley, and in this space, we explore the experience and intervention of burnout in the lives of people. Burnout syndrome is not anything new, but has been an existing pandemic within mainstream culture. Leaders in various industries have faced this in silence, but we want to encourage every listener, every leader, that you are not alone, and burnout is an invitation to begin again. Today's episode is a moving conversation with Sharnelle Henry. In this broadcast, Sharnelle shares her story as a student affairs director in higher education in transition to cyber analyst industry. Join the conversation as we grow beyond burnout with Sharnelle. Hello, and welcome again to another episode of Burnout and Beyond. We are pleased today to have on the podcast Sharnelle Henry. Sharnelle, welcome to the space.
Thank you, Victor.
Awesome. It's been such a long time since we've connected, but it's great to connect with you again. For those that don't know you, Sharnelle, would you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, what can I say? So my name is Sharnelle Henry. I am a native New Yorker. I am currently 28 years old. I'll be 29 in about a week's time, actually. I'm an individual with a background in education. Education has always been a passion of mine alongside music, but I just have like the teacher gene. Both of my parents have been teachers previously, so it kind of makes sense. I went to Andrews University and got my bachelor's of education in music education. And then I also attended Framingham State University in Seoul, South Korea, and I attained my master's of education. So currently I am an assistant director of residential communities at a art college in Baltimore, and I've been in this role for about 2.5 years.
Okay, cool. So happy you gave the shout out for your birthday. So you all know the Cash App. She can throw that in there. You can share that. You can share that with everybody or whatever.
Yes, it's $Sharnova, SHARNOVA.
There you go. Like you know what to do when it's that time of the year. Awesome. So Sharnelle, tell us a bit about, your definition and experience with burnout.
Well, my experience, I'm actually still kind of in the process of experiencing this to some degree, unfortunately.
Okay.
I'll talk a little bit about my work environment and my work culture and how I basically was fully burnt out about 2 or 3 months ago. So I let you know that I do work at an art college here in Baltimore, and I think it's important to acknowledge the culture, because I think that the culture breeds a lot of the patterns that I've seen in this work environment. And so it being an art school, things are very loosey-goosey. There aren't many processes. Documentation isn't really a thing. It's very do what you feel today and do what you feel tomorrow. And it's all fine. It is a prestigious art college, so there are a lot of funds at our disposal, and I think that one of the ways that we remedy challenges is to throw money at it as opposed to like addressing it in a very systemic manner. So when I came here in 2019, I was actually in a role that I currently supervise. And 2 months in, I was just really confused as to why I didn't know what was going on, and I recognized that like it was the culture, like there's no rhyme or reason to anything. And so you're building as you go all the time. Strangely, I was able to flourish. I am, and I have been able to flourish in this environment. But I think that culture leads to a higher level of burnout and maybe like a faster rate as well, because you're not just doing the work, you're doing the work, you're building the work at the same time. You're sometimes having to go back and make edits because like communication didn't happen that should have, or like clarification didn't happen that should have. So it's a very challenging environment to work in. And so when I was promoted to the role of being an assistant director, I did let my supervisors at the time know that I'm not actually interested in this role unless there's going to be real support, structure, guidance, because I just already had a very challenging experience. I was promised that. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And so I crafted a completely new role in real time while also doing it from March 2020 up until this day. I supervise 4 professional staff and 25 student staff. And so there was a lot of infrastructure to be built across the board. And so this summer, I didn't just have to hire 3 more professional staff, but I had to like build training, onboarding, information. I really had to just create all the things that they would need in order to be successful that I unfortunately didn't have. I'm one person. We're in a pandemic, and I did my best, and actually those efforts went really far as like my team is currently flourishing. But I think that success came at the expense of my own like mental health and well-being. And so basically back in July, I recognized that I really hit a wall. I was really, really spent. I had been just running and running and running and running. And I recognized that I was burnt out. So I haven't really been able to remedy this, unfortunately. The remedy that I currently am in the process of pursuing is finding a new role in somewhere that's potentially a bit more suitable for me. But that's my story of burnout.
Okay. No, wow. You have shared a couple of layers to this that I think are absolutely powerful. One of those being the role that the organization has in creating cultures where burnout is something that is dormant, something that's just a part of the environment, and it's almost like a virus that anyone is vulnerable to catching. And you know, that's an extremely important reality, because on one hand, while burnout is definitely something that's individually related, it's also organization that has the organization has its role in what that looks like, and even preventing, doing their best to prevent it
Oh,
uh,
absolutely.
through
Mm-hmm.
through protocol, procedures, through practices. And
Proactivity. You know?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And so, for those that are listening that are in the art space, you share some scathing rebukes, but reality that also needs to be heard regarding the responsibility of organization, administration, and leaders for creating cultures where productivity is prioritized, right? Because at the end of the day, the group, the team can't be productive if the practices and the protocol and the system doesn't support that type of productivity. I
Right.
want to ask you a question, just kind of in relation to the organization. From when you began to sense the burnout that you were experiencing, were there others around you that you felt may have been going through it as well, but didn't name it?
Oh, well, yes and no. So,
Okay.
absolutely, other people are definitely going through the exact same experience.
Mm,
The no is to the fact that they absolutely did name it, and they do name it.
okay.
My specific division has had an incredibly high rate of turnover. It's actually really, really wild when I think of it. And yeah, I think it's just a very common thing that's existing here that is not really being addressed in a way that makes sense business practice wise, right? Like, if you get great talent, I think that an organization may want to retain it. And, you know, I guess that's all I'll say.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So others have also experienced it, and just from the leadership perspective, it hasn't seemed that um, the cues have been caught on to as to what others.
I
Tell,
don't know that the cues haven't been caught onto. I think at this
okay.
point, there's no like elephant in the room. Things have been said very candidly, very plainly, repetitiously, even. I
Okay.
think it's a matter of
Got it.
prioritizing humans first, and also like being intentional about next steps. So, yeah.
Okay. No, that's powerful to be aware of just what the truth is sometimes. And as you're saying, the priority, if the priority isn't there, then there will always be reason not to do anything to actually change.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely powerful. So as it came to almost this, I guess, year and a quarter where you are going nonstop, tell me sorts the goal that you had in mind. Share with us the goal that you had in mind, and just how close you feel you came to that reaching that goal
Are you
of
talking about the
onboarding.
goal that I had in this
Yes.
period? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, um,
Oh, we lost you for a moment. Let's try it again.
Oh, am I back?
You're back. Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, so a couple of things actually happened. Um, the first the first task that I had was hiring 3 new professional staff. And mind you, this was after being in a pandemic with only one person that I had previously hired, and so um, kind of creating job roles and leading search and hiring processes for 3 individuals. One thing I'll say is that our HR department is very understaffed as well. And so it takes a great deal of effort and communication and follow up and prodding to a certain degree to get anything done. So that was a major feat, creating trainings for them, aligning timelines in a way that made sense. I also was bringing on a team of 22 students, and the vast majority of them were new. So I think only 4 had served in the capacity of the role before. And so I had to now create training, a 2-week long training period. Mind you, this is like content, presentations, logistics, guests, like literally an operation. And I also had to keep in mind that for the vast majority of these students, it would be the first time that they're hearing any of this information. And so forming everything in a way that doesn't assume a knowledge base up front was just another thing. And just took a lot of work, like a whole lot of work. And so I was super successful. Oh, another thing that I worked on, Victor, was, as I mentioned, our culture is very like, here and there. And so I recognized the humongous team that I was about to have. I was going to go from supervising about 1 person, 1 professional staff and 2 student staff indirectly, to a team of about 30 people under me. And I said, this isn't going to work the way that we currently operate. So I got acquainted with this work management software called Asana, which has been my saving grace. Like, I built out a complete infrastructure in this program, and it makes everything run smoothly. So I manage all my projects there, all communication happens there, and I also helped my professional staff to build out the same for their team. So all the student staff have all of their things in one place, resources, timelines, dates, everything. And it just really is like, it makes the most sense to work this way. So I've been definitely trying to get my peers and my supervisor to operate in that way as well, but it's a work in progress.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So you one of the ways that you found to navigate it was to outsource, in a sense, finding a resource rather that was very helpful. Tell us the name of the resource again that you.
It's called Asana. I'm actually an Asana ambassador.
Okay.
So it's really useful. It's kind of like Trello, Monday.com, kind of work management tools. It's also useful personally as well. Like, there's a lot going on in my personal life. And so I kind of brain dump everything in there, give it deadlines, priorities, and stuff like that. And it just keeps you on track.
Okay. Awesome. So when you hit that wall, I guess what triggered for you that you'd actually hit a wall? Because sometimes when we hit walls, we think that it's a signal to keep pushing. Right, that we're almost there, or that this is just the last hurdle that we need to get over before, or we need to get our second win, so to speak. What indicated to you that this was an actual wall that you needed to stop at?
Yeah, so like, that's funny that you say that, because I'm pretty sure I hit several walls before I hit this specific wall.
Yeah.
And to be very honest, the indicator was that I was sitting in this office currently, the office I'm currently in, and I was actually crying at work. Like, I'm usually a very like even-keeled person, bubbly, like I'm incredibly resilient and I can roll with the flow. But like, the fact that like I would come in here and I'd just be so overwhelmed that I would literally be crying, I was like, this is wild. So yeah, that was definitely a signal. I then moved on to have a conversation with the vice president who was supervising my team at the time. And I let him know, and he could tell I was my demeanor was so dejected, and he had never seen me like that. Me neither, but I just didn't have anything else to give. I had given everything that I had to all the projects that were on my plate. I had no support, no help, no nothing, and it was just really inappropriate. So I did share that feedback. And I was basically told, thank you for doing the work despite your questions, which, at face value seems laudatory. But what it means is kind of like, thank you for being a workhorse despite the dysfunction. And that's when I said, okay, I don't know about this. So yeah, that's when I hit my wall.
Wow. Wow. No, that's significant.
Yeah,
That's extremely significant. And one of the things I thought that was powerful that you shared in that was that your resilience elasticity wore out.
absolutely.
Right. And so sometimes when people hear that others have burned out, it's like, oh, you just need to be resilient. And like what you said really spoke powerfully to the reality that it can happen after the ability to bounce back has been played on too much, right? It's been overutilized. It hasn't had time to recover.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's extremely important to realize. And so the overwhelming emotions, the lack of support, even after sharing that with your supervisor, brought you to that point. And so as you've reached that point and you begin to move forward from that awareness or that wall, what were the next steps that you took?
So the next step I took was actually kind of wild. I said wild a
Okay.
lot in this interview, but it just was what I felt that I need to do. So
Okay.
at that moment, I determined that I really need to move on from this position. However, I recognized that I was at a junction where I was bringing on 3 completely new student staff. I was also getting a new director. I was bringing on at least like 18 new student staff. And so I recognized that leaving at that position would leave a plethora of people in a very challenging place. And so once
Mhm.
again, I was kind of like the sacrificial lamb, and I said, okay, despite the fact that I'm really deteriorating here, I'm going to hang on and see this through to a certain degree, and just transition a little bit later. The next step that I did take, however, was I enrolled myself in a cyber business analyst boot camp. I have been looking into tech for quite some time, really since like 2019. And I knew that this is the direction that I wanted to go in, as it aligns with some of the values that I have from my next career path or career choice. And some of those values are, number one, of course, this position being lucrative to some degree and like paying you for the work that you're doing.
Mhm.
I'm no longer interested in full-time jobs. What I say is like community service masquerading as a full-time job. That's what it feels like I'm doing. So
Mm.
um, yeah, so the lucrative portion is really important to me. I'm also really interested in working remotely. Obviously, remote work is possible in so many industries where it didn't really seem to be possible previously. And I'd love to have that like freedom and the autonomy to work on a beach in Aruba tomorrow if I feel like it.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I need a job that's not going to stress me out. Like, obviously, work will be work, but the
Mhm.
levels of stress that I've experienced in the last 2 years, but of course, like since the pandemic, have been astronomical. And I feel 35 and I'm 28. So yeah. So yeah, I enrolled in the boot camp, and that was actually back in August. In the busiest, craziest time, and I've been in class 3 times a week. Been learning about network security, business analysis, Scrum. It's a little challenging, of course, because if I'm in a position of burnout, I don't really have mental bandwidth. I have like 2 brain cells left to go to class for 3 hours, 3 times a week. Um, but I've been pushing through. And so
Okay.
we're coming up on the end of this boot camp, and I do plan to transition into a business analysis role um, in the next couple of months.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Yeah, your story is phenomenal. And what I deeply appreciate what you're highlighting is the reality. Many times those that have experienced burnout, they're high achievers,
Mm-hmm.
right? They have high work ethics, right?
Yeah.
It's not the idea that people aren't wanting to work. And I think also for employers and administrators and leaders that need to also realize this, that it's not the desire to not work or to work less. It's to work with good productivity, efficiency, and with leadership team that has empathy. That's powerful. That's powerful. So you're transitioning as you are helping the team even to transition,
Yes.
is definitely definitely a feat. Let me ask you a question. So what is the gap between your transitions as you foresee them unfolding?
Mm. So the semester at my current school ends on December 17th, and the
Okay.
spring semester will begin on January 18th.
Okay.
Best case scenario, I'm gone before January 18th.
Okay.
That's contingent on several things, but that's my desired timeline.
Okay.
Um, right now, the infrastructure that I've built will definitely last into next semester. Like, people kind of know what to do because it's all documented, it's all there. So I definitely feel like my team is in a place where if I disappear, they won't be languishing. But
Okay.
yeah, early, definitely by the end of January is, what I'm really hoping for. But um, I'm just gonna work ferociously towards that goal.
Okay. 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 And with the business analyst role that you are transitioning into, um, it seems that education, music, teaching, and business analysts don't have much in common. So, uh, share with us a bit of what the bridge that you see between the two.
Oh, oh, absolutely. So, I think that as an educator, one of the core skills that a good educator has is management. Any professor, any teacher knows that classroom management is the foundation of any great learning, right? Like, great learning can't
Mhm.
occur in your classroom if you don't have systems in place, if you don't have accountability, if you don't have a common understanding of how things are run. And so I think it's a very direct transferable skill for business analysis. In my current role, as I mentioned, I manage a slew of people. And so when you're thinking about business analysis and you're thinking about stakeholders and you're thinking about determining needs and things of that sort, it's management to a certain degree, and I am very skilled in that area. I also do believe that I have honed some really great communication skills, which is also really important.
Mhm.
And so communication is how we all build bridges together to get on the same page about what the work is going to be, what is needed, what timelines will occur, how to follow up with those, and things of that sort. So it does seem like a bit of a stretch, but it just may not be.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not. No, that's awesome what you just shared, because there are some people that will watch that are watching right now that are sensing the need to transfer, right? To start a new career,
Do
but
it.
they aren't clear what those transferable skills are,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so
Oh.
for the fact that you've been able to articulate what some of those are is very powerful. And for those that are watching and sense the need to do that, start with what is transferable, with that's in line with who you are and your values. And so that's awesome that you've been able to nail down those two core leadership qualities of communication and management.
And one other thing
That
I just want to say really quickly, Victor,
absolutely.
is for people who are interested in transitioning into tech. Um, it may seem really confusing, and pardon me, it may seem challenging because I think when people think about tech, they're like, oh my gosh, coding and being an engineer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But tech exists in every single industry, and so,
Mm.
like, any industry you can think of has a need for people in tech. So there are communication people, manager people, tech HR, hiring, training, and onboarding. And so there are niches in every area, even if you do not have coding skills, even if you do not have, like, a background in engineering or like network and things of that sort. The transferable skills are not the only things to focus on. If you're looking at your current role and then you look at roles that align with what you currently do, it'll be a great way to look at that too, because that was like some learning that I had to do back in 2019. I was on Code Academy, learning Java and all of these things, and I recognized that that's not exactly the path that I'm interested in. I'm a people person, I'm a manager, I'm a teacher, I'm a trainer, and that's the area that I'm also aspiring to get into shortly.
That's super cool. No, to be clear about where you're going, you need to be also clear about what you aren't,
Yeah.
in the direction that you don't want to go.
Right.
So no, that's absolutely awesome. And thank you for those tips of information regarding the reality of how diverse the tech world is,
Mhm.
and also how inclusive it is. For someone who is in either space of on the side of tech and wanting to transition out, or in the education, in the educational role and wanting to sensing the need to transition, what tips or what questions or probing questions would you encourage them to consider for moving forward?
Well, I think transitioning out of tech, I don't know that I can really speak to that, right?
Okay.
But I can speak to like transitioning out of education.
Okay.
I think that really it shouldn't be so much of a transition. It should be more of like a repositioning if you're remaining in education. So, for example, learning and development is a humongous field of tech, right? Like all these people who are brought onto a team need to learn about maybe like a product or learn about a company's procedures, how they do things. And if you're a skilled communicator and a teacher, you can just take your skills literally right into that area and flourish. So
Okay.
some people may actually want to like jump ship completely, like, hey, don't want to teach anyone anything ever. And in that case, of course, like, look at the transferable skills, look at the job descriptions, like research, connect with people who do it and figure out like what their day-to-day looks like, what you may need to learn and what you may need to do. But like if you're pivoting, which is super possible, I think that you can just pivot, right? Like you're still teaching. It's just a different demographic of people.
Okay. Awesome, awesome, Sharnelle. It's been a pleasure. Before we let you go, we want to know how we can best connect with you. For others that would love to learn more about your role as an ambassador and future tech analyst, and just other things that you have going on. What is the best way to connect with you?
Sure. So I'm a little in and out of social media, but my Instagram is Shardichoke. It's literally the vegetable, the artichoke with an S in front of it. And then I am also on LinkedIn. My full name is Sharnelle Henry. So if you add me, I will connect with you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Sharnelle, it has been a pleasure to have you on, and those that hear this will definitely be impacted by your story, your vulnerability, and authenticity. And as always, we thank you again for joining us on the space today.
Thank you, Victor. Have a great day.
You as well. And those that are listening, just always remember that in your journey of burnout, that you aren't alone, that others like Sharnelle are navigating through the recovery experience. And the reality is that burnout is an invitation to begin again. Peace. Sharnelle's grit, authenticity, and vulnerability are a combo to be reckoned with. You hear me? Sharnelle has flourished in the job title, but it has come at the expense of her mental well-being. It was at her low point that she knew something had to change. Are you at a low point with burnout? If you are, what is the next courageous move that you're ready to make? Write it down and put one foot in front of the other. Listen, I want to thank you for joining this episode of Burnout and Beyond. To see previous episodes, visit the podcast page on victorspeakslife.org. If you or your organization want to grow beyond burnout, share your information by clicking the Book Victor icon. And until next time, live well.